Hey everybody, this is Carlos Ocelot, and you're watching Dan Can's channel. Thorin, my man. Enjoy.
This is going to be another episode. I don't know, what is it now, like 5 or something? I think it's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
No,
5?
5 could be. Of the show that I do with Gio, Daring Minds, which again, blah, blah, blah. It's a Valorant show. You get the point. It's a Valorant show. But as you see, one thing we do on each episode, though, is we're trying to sort of like explore the whole world of Valorant, whatever that means, the scene. You know, we're going different scenes, different people, commentators, players. Now we've got a player on the episode. We've got Ardiis here. You might know once upon a time, obviously he was fucking living large, G2 shit, you know, the early European scene. Now he's with FPX, which by the way is actually a pretty good team, but obviously they have their own extenuating circumstances why they won't be at Masters. But that's his loss is our gain because we get to have him on this episode and hear his thoughts on the other Masters teams. And obviously now, it's going to be ages till next Masters, mate. You can just drop all the fucking gems, can't you? Like, these guys won't matter. You won't be playing them for weeks anyway because of the way the circuit operates. So give us your thoughts on that first. Obviously, people might have seen some of the reasons why FPX won't be there, right? I know it's an obvious, like, a shit question, but essentially we just want to get your thoughts. So, like, must be a bummer, right? After you did so well in the online portion and you get the spot and you could have had, I mean, I'm sure this was going to be a big breakout for the team, right?
I mean, honestly, since I joined the team, we've been cracking so much. Like, I think you ask anyone on the team, like, we've been just playing shitloads. We've been playing like 5 scrims a day for like since December, since I joined. Like, and like obviously the meta's changed a while. Like before we even played the playoffs, the game, like the playoffs to qualify, we only had 2 days to practice on the new patch, which is like that was brutal for us. That was like one of the biggest events in the year. And Riot decided, you know what? We're gonna change do a big meta change like 1 day before like the big qualifiers, but. I mean, overall, we've just been grinding a lot, like the whole team. Like you gotta realize we're all playing stupid amounts of hours. Like play like 5-6 pracs a day, 2 hours of like 1 or 2 hours of server time. Then we also play 3 or 4 hours of practice outside, like a ranked. Like I think every single one of us has just put in an insane amount of hours, and then to basically find out, oh yeah, you can't go because of the war, COVID. Like it's fucking brutal. I'm gonna be honest, and then. On top of that, it's like, oh yeah, you might not get enough points. Like, I don't know if they've worked it out now, if it's public or not. Or I don't know.
Because
they public.
Are they going to give you like a set amount even though you couldn't attend?
Yeah, so like I think we got like
you get a last place finish.
Yeah, we got like no, I think we got finished 8. We got the 8th place finish, but like we got the prize pool of 8th.
Finish, okay.
Yeah, we got the prize pool of 8th and the points somehow anyway. Like I know a lot of orgs aren't happy. Like I know a lot of tier 1 orgs aren't happy because that means Liquid have not qualified. They're still going to be getting points. So I think it's going to fuck up the whole format for champions, like this last spot.
Right.
Which is, that's down in the future. But like as long as we play well and we do as long as we qualify, we're completely fine. I can see a lot of orgs and other teams being really angry at the solution that Riot found.
By the way, if anyone else, like, obviously people know I'm new to Valorant. I only know people mainly from CSGO, etc. I'm sure some viewers are experiencing the same thing I did, which is, I won't lie, whenever I saw your name, it was obviously on like Wikipedias and stuff from all the matches. So when I saw like Latvian flag or whatever, I was expecting a very different voice when I saw the first interview with you, mate, when I was doing a bit of research. So I just hope all of our American friends can tune in and just enjoy what they're listening to.
You're going to need someone to do subtitles at the bottom, you know what I mean?
There you go. Okay. Click the closed caption button now, folks, and we'll have English ready for you as soon as possible. No, anyway, whatever. By the way, that's one thing, just as a random aside. Are your teammates, are they totally tuned into, do they understand your accent fine?
So at the start, like the first...
You have a pretty mixed team, right?
Yeah, we have 2 Russians, 1 Ukrainian, 2 Swedes. And I asked them this, actually. I asked them a couple of months ago, and they said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you, Ardiis. The first week or 2, we couldn't understand a word you were saying. Like, they could understand, like, you know, pieces and pieces. Like, they would say, like, I'd say, like, rush B, let's rush B, go. They'd be like, B. Okay, rush B, something B. Like let's, like mid-round, let's do that, whatever. I'd speak so fast, and they'd be like, B, flash. And they'd be like, okay, let's go B. But, like they said, after, like, a week or 2, you got used to it. Like, they basically adapted their ears to my voice, which is, like, it's weird to say, like, say, but... They just adapted and like they said after that it's fine. But, like there's still a few moments where they're like, "What the fuck are you saying?" You know what I mean? Like, you need to repeat that. But it's
like anything that has a k sound in it was probably the hardest for them, right? Like that's the big.
The first week it was editing. I remember saying to them, I was like, "Oh yeah, how's your day been?" They just listen. They would look at me and TeamSpeak just blank. They'd be like, Yes, Ardiis, I agree. I'm like, well, bro, I didn't say, do you agree? How was your day? You know what I mean?
That's good.
Like after that, though, it got a lot better, but it was definitely funny at the start, like you say that. But...
Fair play. Yeah. By the way, being as you're not at the event then, let me ask this at the start, and after this, we'll mainly talk more about the Masters and the other teams there and set up all the jazz. I'll just give you a chance, right? You seem to me like a pretty self-confident guy, so I'm just going to ask you a loaded question, right? Which is, if FPX had gone, were you going to tear this event up? Were you actually going to do really well? Were you in position, do you think? Were you primed for a big finish?
I'm confident because our form was unbelievable. Like, even like, we were playing with standings and we were doing good. We were playing with our 5, we were doing good. Like, you don't realise we beat Gambit. Like, they literally, I know they didn't qualify, which is a bit fucking weird. But,
they were considered number 1 though, right?
Yeah, they're hands down because they're the best in Europe. Like, I know it was a close game, whatever, could have went either way, but overall, like, we're all peaking at our individual form at the right time. Like, everything was just going our way, basically. And I think I'd say at least top 2 finish for us, and I could see us winning. But I like at least top 2. But I think just right now, like, the scenes, like, the teams that are going aren't as strong as you'd expect, if that makes sense. Like, there's been other Masters and Champions where I think these teams are, like, a more stronger individually. I think this is the strongest NAs ever sent, though. NA teams ever came. But, again, I feel like the individual form that we were on, we would have still finished top 2, in my opinion.
I'm actually just want to like jump in and ask something because I'm really curious because, as you said, like you joined FPX towards the end of last year, and before then it was Shadow and Dimasic were on the team who aren't anymore. And in stage 3 last year, FPX had a bit of a rough time. Like they didn't do as well compared to their performance in like stage 2, for example. Now, you guys actually still have the same coach, if I'm not mistaken. So do you think it literally was just a case of like, it was just the fact that those 2 players got replaced, or was there like a mentality thing that bringing in the new people was a big part of it? Or is it just that, like you said, you've been practicing a ton and the change of that? Like, what do you think was, from your perspective as one of the people who's come in and kind of brought FPX back to life, like what do you think was the biggest thing that kind of changed FPX from, stage 3 2021 to stage 1 2022 version of FPX?
Yeah, I think for me, the way Angels teams play is super structured. Like it's like super like do this. It's like super methodical, I'd say. Do this, take map control here, leave a guy, do that. Like it's super like, I don't know how you call it, but it's like, it's not readable, but it's like you know what they're doing type thing. Like you can maybe stop it, you can't stop it. I think with me joining, I have like a license to do whatever the fuck I want, basically. Like they like obviously there's some rounds where like they'll say you can't do shit, don't do that, don't do this, which makes sense, but like sometimes I'll literally say in the comms, I'm going to go do a cuckoo round. Like, when I say I'm going to do cuckoo, they understand I'm just going off my instinct. I'm going to do my own thing. Like, it might fit the plan, it might not fit the plan, but, like, overall, that, like, they need to understand that I might lose the round, I might win the round. And what they've been good with, which Angels been super good with, is that they've just gave me the freedom. They've said, listen, if you're feeling the moment, just do it. But obviously, as well, there's, like, I don't see why they were doing so bad, to be honest. Because Eric's a fantastic coach. Angel's like unbelievable IGL. Like he's taught me a lot. Like the team overall, Xiao, Zipan, the top 10 players in Europe. Like I don't see why the team was doing so bad. But I think it might have been it was just to do with the roles because I don't think they had the AWPer before. So and I think playing in VALORANT, you need like a primary AWPer like type player. But
yeah, if people don't know, Angel is actually quite a famous CSGO player from that region. And like for example, people like Simple used to play in his teams way back. And he was actually also in CSGO, even though like his career had sort of wound down the last few years. He was still relevant until I'm going to say like 2018 or something. He was still at the majors and stuff. And actually as an in-game leader, he was pretty well known for being actually like one of the more skilled leaders because he used to not be an IGL and used to be a pretty good fragger. What's he like as a player in VALORANT, Ardiis?
He's super aggressive. I'd say like, he's one of them people who takes space, takes risks. He knows he's taking risks to take space. Like a lot of people meet me and say like, oh, like look at Angel stats, look at this, look at that. But you got to realize you've got to have someone going first. And whoever normally the guy who goes in first will die. Like it's the same in CS, same in VALORANT. Yes. Like I remember, like a good example would be Taco. Like Taco used to get sent to the.
That was his job, basically. Yeah, his sacrificial lamb.
It was literally just to die to be, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously, he's not. Angel's role isn't that, but Angel takes risks. I think other players just don't understand. And they see like, oh, he's died first 8 times this game. Like, he might have died first, but he might have bought space, might have gave us trade. Like,
yes.
Like it's like, I like Angel because it gives risks and he just takes risks that other people wouldn't do. And like, gives you more space as a player and like, I feel like it just gives you more space, which is honestly you value a lot. What I do anyway.
I feel like FPX, even when they were struggling, like one thing that always kind of stood out about FPX, and you'll have to explain whether you feel like this is the same thing now, because I haven't really watched a ton of EU this stage, so I haven't seen as much as I did in that stage, is that there were always kind of little like creative or out of the box ideas. Some were good, some were bad. So like, I think, for example, one thing I remember about FPX was they were one of the first teams. You remember it was always the stereotype that no one played Icebox mid. But I remember FPX were kind of one of the first teams that actually started to have setups that specifically revolved around like Icebox mid when other teams were still a bit reluctant to do that and stuff like that. And so it was kind of like the willingness to sort of try and innovate. But at the same time, like FPX were one of the teams that really lagged in being able to, you know, picking up like new meta ideas. So for example, like they didn't play Viper on Bind for ages, which like now seems kind of weird, right? Like the idea of not playing Viper on Bind in the, you know, the last however long period of time. I'm wondering if you feel like FPX has still retained like that sort of like creativity and like willingness to sort of step outside of what a lot of other teams might hold quite closely within the meta.
I mean, yeah, like we have that right now with Angel and Eric. They're trying to find like the new meta. Like right now with this whole week of practice that we're doing right now is it's called experimental week. Let's just say that. We're trying to find new metas, trying to experiment, because like we understand that the next event's going to be in 5 weeks. We've got to make use of that time, try to find like advantages over teams that like other teams can't find. We're going to understand everyone's like playing the main event, so we're just trying to find like advantages we can find other teams, like over other teams. But it's a lot harder said than done, if that makes sense. Like it's a lot easier saying like, oh yeah, let's just find a new meta. Like it's like to find a new meta, like you have to really think about it. And right now, Angel and Doombros are like thinking of funky stuff, let's just say that. But like sometimes as players, like we're just saying like this isn't it. Like whatever, like I know you're trying to find the meta, this isn't it. But like we're trying to like it's a bit of it's a weird thing because like everyone wants to be the team that finds a new meta. Like everyone wants to do it. Like everyone like it's every game. Everyone wants to be like the players or the coach who finds a new meta. But it's like I say, it's just easier said than done. But that's like the. I don't want to say the problem, but like the phase we're in, where we're trying to find a new meta, but we don't want to go too far out west, where like we have all our normal comps that we know the win that do well, that like on the other side. Like so, we're like right now we're just testing things, and it's we'll see how it goes. Basically, that's all I'm going to say on that. You know what I mean?
What have been your early?
Actually, by the way, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. In terms of like obviously to contextualize this tournament, what are your reads on what the meta is like now? Like, what should we look for that'll be different from, like, obviously even the online qualifiers started in the old like version. So, what do you think we should expect to be different, and what should we look for in this tournament?
Right now, what I'm seeing with the meta, especially in NA teams right now, is that they have Chamber or Jet, not one or the other. And a lot of teams are trying to like substitute the Chamber for Jet, and like on certain maps. But like, there's certain maps you can do it, and certain maps you can't. Like, if a team's running Chamber on Breeze and they don't run Jet, their defense might be good, but their attack's gonna be fucking abysmal. Like, and like the certain like teams are trying to find. Like, I know Cloud9 was super good at that. I know they didn't qualify, but I think they had like the meta pretty much figured out. They had like on every map, I'd say their comp was like what you expect the comp to be. Obviously, they didn't qualify, but like so you can say in hindsight, oh yeah, they should have changed this, that, and that, but whatever. But looking on paper, I just think their comps and metas are just perfect. And like, it's right now a lot of people like are running double duelists as well on certain maps. Like on Split, they just whip it out like Jet and Raze. Or I think it's map dependent a lot. Like what you'll see, to be honest. But, yeah.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I think that's an interesting take about the Chamber Jet thing. Is definitely something that I've noticed as well. And actually, I think that, you know, not to lean on this too much, because I think we've already beaten this one, but like one of the things that I think 100 Thieves are trying to go through with like their restructuring, whatever's going on there, is like they were a team that really suffered with that whole kind of struggle to have like two players who could actually do both of them at the same time and really get like results that they needed. So yeah, I think that when you see a team struggle with not being able to have both on certain maps, then you really feel that. Yeah, and I think also the double duelist comment is really interesting as well. I actually had a conversation about this like on my stream not too long ago because it was just kind of in general like the idea that now that on a number of maps you're not going to be running like a double controller, for example, because it's not as viable, you're going to end up with double something elsewhere. And like it's been interesting seeing certain teams, and I don't have an exact example in mind, so I'm going to say this really vaguely, but like it's been interesting seeing certain teams where they'll run similar compositions or whatever, like on a map, but it'll be like team A has chosen to have like double initiator and team B has chosen to have like double duelist. And I think that's something that's going to be interesting to see what ends up being kind of more popular, or like if there is a really wide variety of how that sort of idea comes out when the international teams go against each other and they've come from different play styles and different regions, etc.
I mean, the way we do it in FPX is that we run it as a second comp. So we'll practice like 2 different comps.
Right.
And obviously when you're playing, like, we'll always like practice it and have it in our pocket. But you got to realize when you're playing these events and these qualifiers to qualify for fucking Rajcula and champions and whatnot, these teams are going to do research. Like these teams are going to have like 2 analysts, 1 coach, looking at demos, looking at like tendencies, looking at everything possible in the game. Then they might have like 10 VODs to go off. So then all of a sudden they get to the game, they're thinking that you're going to run a certain comp and you whip out a double duelist. And everything they've worked for has just went out the window. Like they'll be having like a 1-hour match prep with the team saying like, listen, this is how they play A, this is what they like to do, this is where they take map control. All of a sudden it comes to a game, we're double duelists, we're rushing A. Like, it's like best way is it feels what's the word? It feels like bad, like when you do that much prep and then you think, I've just wasted all my time.
Yeah.
Like, it's like certain mind games as well. Like you don't think about the player's POV.
Yeah,
I've just listened to my coaches for an hour.
Yes.
And they've whipped out a double duelist, and like everything I've listened to and took in, like focused on, is pointless. And like, yeah.
And it is like, it's also, we're in an era where like a team running double sentinel is way more popular than it ever was, right? Because Chamber's popular, and also people are bringing Sage on a number of maps to make up for the fact that they're not running a Viper and stuff like that. So not only is it like, they could just fuck us up and run double duelist, but it's like actually, because I think it's probably, I would argue that outside of double controller, the next most popular would have always been double initiator. But because you have like kind of more flexibility and more viability to bring double the other roles now, it's like there's way more you have to pre-consider as potentially like coming out as a surprise.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, like, what I like about the meta now though is that the Astra meta's gone. Like that, I'm so fucking like, you don't understand.
You want a fan?
Like, you don't know, honestly, like, you got to understand that you're playing Prax, it's boring. Like, you've got to do a slow default every single round.
Right.
Got to do a slow default. Then you go into ranked, where you think, okay, listen, I'm going to run around, have fun, show off my individual skill. All of a sudden, I'm running a passive default in ranked. I'm running a passive default in scrims. I'm like, I was thinking, like, you understand, it was boring to play Valorant. But now they've spiced it up a little bit, and I'm like, that's the stuff I'm happy with right away, because like they understand that like it was shit to watch. First of all, it was shit to play, and they've said, listen, we're going to go back to the old meta. And like to me, I'm so happy for Riot for that. Like, but I think they maybe it took a bit too long, but you know what? At the end of the day, they've done it, so I'm happy. But yeah,
it is cool the amount of variety now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, to be fair, it goes the other way in CSGO, mate. When the org was OP, it was OP for like 1 year. We were just everyone knew about 2 months in, this is broken. And we were like, is it ever going to get fixed? Like, there was people winning majors off it, everything, mate. It was mental. I have a quick question before we get into the actual teams that are actually at the tournament. Since you mentioned, obviously, in NA, like some of the big names didn't make it, I actually want to just briefly ask, what is your take on what happened with the Gambit team, who obviously in this tournament had to be called M3 champions because of the whole situation over there, right? What do you make of them not qualifying? Because as you say, like, people did pretty much have them sort of penciled in as they're like the official world #1 still, right? They should be at the tournament. So was it online play? What was it?
I know. So recently they've just started changing stuff up. Like, I think because you got to realize they were the best team for like over a year. Like, they might not have won all the events, but like they were. Everyone like from practice,
behind the scenes, people thought they were the best, right?
Yeah.
They
Like
set the precedent for a lot of the way of how you play Valorant.
Yeah, and like right now, what they've done is, because everyone's watched so many demos and VODs of them, it's hard to switch up your play. Like, once you play the certain style, it's hard to switch it up. So what they're doing now is they're switching roles. All of a sudden, Natch is Natch is the Viper, Natch is the Sage actually now, I think. But like they're switching a lot of the roles, but it's keeping the same team. I think they're not finding the same results, but I think individually and as a team, they're that good. I think this is just a blip. Like I don't see them not qualifying or not making the next Masters. I think that's a brutal thing with this schedule in Riot. You don't qualify for one event, and now guess what? You're waiting 4 months, 3 months for the next event, and it's like it's super shit. But like in my head, I still think Gambit are the best team in the world. In my opinion, anyway.
That's certainly cool, the idea that, like, even if they're going to have to take time to adapt to the new rules, they want to keep the same lineup for it. They obviously believe in that, like, team play and whatever they've got going. And if people don't know, that's actually a famous quality of Gambit in all the other games, like League of Legends and CS. They have the same philosophy. It's like, it's about, like, if you've got a core that works, you tweak stuff, but you don't just kick people like everyone else does. Like,
well, like,
you see the NA
Gambit
team.
Would you even kick? Like, that's the thing. If you actually go up to someone, you say, all right, we have to kick someone from Gambit. Like, who's it going to be? Like, most people would turn around and just look at you like you're a fucking crazy person. They'd be like, why the fuck you want to kick someone from Gambit? What the hell? So, like, there isn't really, like, someone on the team who you would say, like, yeah, they're clearly the weak link, right? Or even have, like, a debate over it.
I think that's the big good thing about Gambit. Like, they have no weak link. Like, it's not like the IGL's one of the best. The Duelist is one of the best. They've got one of the best flex players. They've got arguably the best player and one of like the past best players, and that's a Chronicle. So like it's like overall they're just teams super strong and like I
think
like
what
you said,
it also. Oh, sorry. Go on. Finish.
Like you said, if anyone was to get kicked, it'll come down to inner politics, I think, more like who doesn't like who, or like so like it'll come down to some random bullshit that isn't to do with the actual server, in my opinion, anyway.
It kind of reminds me just the way that you described why you think they didn't qualify for this event. Funny enough, my favorite team from Rainbow Six is a team called Team Empire, also a Russian team. And they sort of had a similar thing where they kind of came out of nowhere, were immediately went into like the grand finals of the World Championships, and this was before they'd even played in like a Pro League season. Yeah, like that's how fast they rose up. And they won a bunch of stuff, and everyone knew how they played. Like, there was no question about how their strategy worked, how they played, what they did. They didn't make any attempt to, like, obscure that from people. It was just the fact that they were so fucking good at it that no one could do anything about it. And after a certain amount of time, people did start to be able to, break down their walls a little bit, and they went through a dip. But I think they changed like 1 or 2 players over a long period of time, but the core was still there. And after a certain amount of time, they kind of came back and they won a major in 2020. They were doing really well in 2021, and they ended up back in the grand finals of the World Championship at the start of this year as well. So it's like, they're sort of a similar example of a team who were just so good and everyone knew why they were good, but still couldn't break them down. But I think that it is just part of the natural cycle of being that team.
Yes.
So you kind of go through, okay, people start to figure you out and you have to figure out what your next step is, but that doesn't mean your players are washed or your players aren't good enough. And eventually it will come back around, and no one during that time stops seeing you as that team. Like, people are like, we know they're still that team. They're just going through this period.
Sure. I mean, in CSGO, it was very famous that, like, it's something that fans never picked up on. They don't get that. If you have a look in CS history, the teams that were, like, just a good team, they would be good for 3 months, be number one, like, win a big tournament, few second play. But the point is, like this, people study them, they become the most studied team, and if they've got something about the game they're doing unique, it gets countered. People find solutions to it. So what people who are fans, I always thought, never understood about CS is if you ever see like the legendary teams that had like Astralis that have like a period that lasts like more than a year where they're number one, that means that they're so well drilled that actually they technically should fall off and be like number 3, but they're preempting what the next meta switch is going to be themselves and introducing it. And to a fan, they think you just stay on top until you beat like a box or something. It's not. You have to sort of keep updating your shit constantly as well, which is a gamble, like we're saying in this scenario. Look, it can cost you for the first event.
I think as well, sometimes you try to innovate and you innovate wrong. That's why you see like some of the teams where it fall off, where like they think, like Liquid are always a good team in Valorant. They started doing some cuckoo comms where you're thinking, what the fuck are you doing? And all of a sudden they start plummeting, and it's like, obviously in their heads, they're thinking we're one step ahead of the meta. Like, we're going to be the next best team. We're going to be so-and-so. And then they play an official, and it's like, we're running no smokes. Running Phoenix on split.
That was how I felt about Liquid in stage 3. So like when they kept trying to put Scream on KO, I just was like, what is happening here? Stop trying to make KO work. Because back then, people were still trying to play him as a duelist. Like, they weren't playing him like the C9 way, right? And I remember just thinking like, you are so good, stop!
That's the thing with Liquid as well. They have like Scream, who's individually like, aim-wise, are probably one of the best. Putting him on Sky. It's weird, and then you see the comp, and they're running double smokes. Like, I don't even know of a tier 4 team or like a tier 5 team that's ran double smokes in my life. Like,
they're actually like the way that even roles on Team Liquid work right now. It's like one game you'll have Yumpy on Jet, and the next game he'll be on Omen, and it's like no other team like puts this kind of range into their players. You know, like they switch all the time.
I remember checking one of the VLR stats, and like obviously you want to see like stats don't mean everything. I think it was Navira's profile loaded up, and the guy's played like 7 agents in the last month, and then you just think like, where's the consistency? You know what I mean? Like, where like you want to have like some like obviously it's good to be like what's the word versatile and play every agent that you can. But like you get to a point where like if every person's playing 7 different agents, then like you need to start looking at like I don't know. I think they're lacking just a true IGL, to be honest. But I mean, I don't know.
It has always felt like, I don't know, from like an outsider's perspective, it's always looked a little bit like having that on Yampy almost feels like slightly too much weight on his shoulders. And I never knew if that was just me being overly critical or what, but like there was like Yampy is already a impressive player, and I like that people are big fans of him, but I always would like watch them and be like, something's not right here. And I'm like, I haven't been in that position. I can't tell you like what it's like as the player. But that's always been kind of something I've wondered about as well.
I was actually shocked to find out he's an in-game leader, because if people don't know, the story on Yampy is, in CSGO, he was just like a young, like, Finnish prodigy, but famously he was VAC banned, so he wasn't allowed to play. So he was briefly playing in the Finnish team Ents, but only in online competitions in, like, the online period. And basically, if he'd have ever been unbanned, by the way, he looked like he could have been, like, a really good... He was an AWPer as well, so he looked like he could have been, like, a really skilled player. But he didn't. Put it this way, you would never, ever guess this player would be an IGL. Like, he didn't even... He actually seemed like a bit of a fucking quiet guy as well.
I think that's the problem in Liquid. I think from obviously what I've heard from other
looks like mechanically they've got some banging players.
Oh yeah, mechanically, individually, the whole team. But like the thing is, I've heard everyone on teams IGL. I've heard Screams IGL. Right. I've heard Soulcast. Yeah, I've heard Soulcast IGL. I've heard the others. Like obviously, I don't know the inner workings of the team, but I don't think Yampy's like IGL and IGL. I think it's more like, we need the voice, you're the voice, good luck. Like, again, that's me just guessing off the top of my head.
Speculation course, yeah.
But, like as an individual, Yampy's unbelievable. Like, the guy's moved over and, like, from CS, and what I love about Yampy is that guy's grinded. Same with Navira, and I think that was down to Sliggy as well. Where Sliggy understood that the guy's moving over from CS. Like, the CS players, like, think it's like, oh, that'll be easy, I'll just move over, I'll kill everyone. Like, so I'm good at CS, that means I'll go be good at Valorant. What like Sliggy made them do for Navira and Yampy, they said, listen, play 2 months of ranked non-stop. Like 3 months, just play the game non-stop, day in, day out. Stream it if you want to, don't stream if you don't want to. And Yampy and Navira both done that. Like they I swear, like at the start they were obviously shit. Like it was obvious, it's a new game, you're gonna learn everything. It's completely obvious. After 3 months, the guys look like unbelievable players. You're gonna realize the aim carries over from CS. Like
sure.
And like, but obviously, I don't know about the IGL, but like that's a questionable part. Sure. But like, that's what I respect about Navira and Yampy as well, because they've moved over and they've grinded the game, and it's like, it's just fair play to them. Honestly, that's all I wanted to say on that little rant there.
No, fair enough.
Navira coming into the team definitely made Team Liquid look really impressive in Champions. Like, that was a huge talking point, because obviously Liquid won at Masters 3. So people were kind of in this sort of anticipation to see how they would do at Champs. And yeah, with Navira coming into the team, and obviously the synergy between him and Scream, like, right, of course. And there was just a huge talking point about how, like, he was just this piece that they really needed. But I've definitely heard, and I think this could maybe link into, what we're talking about roles being a bit like weird sometimes. I've heard that, like, people always say this about Sliggy. They say Sliggy is that coach that when he gets it right, he really gets it right. But when he gets it wrong, it can be some like whack shit. And he isn't afraid to try new ideas, and they don't always go right. But that's why sometimes you see Team Liquid do things that just kind of go off at the deep end.
I mean, I worked at Sliggy for a couple of months. I worked on like to the beta. Like it's Fish 123. We played a lot. We won everything, and the guy was super. Like the guy was putting in work, and like the guy would like. It was a little funny story. We would like we'd turn up to practice 12, 1 o'clock, whatever. We'd turn up. He'd put in 10 different links in. Be like, listen, here's an arrow for you. Here's this. Here's that we can do. Here's that. Like, I remember you click on it. You hear some heavy death metal, like bro, heavy metal to like it was crazy, and I was like, Sliggy, how did you do these? Like, yeah, I was up until 3 a.m. doing all these stats, and like I was like just listening to music, and I was like, fair play, fair play to the guy. Like the guy's grinding.
Sure.
I think what you're saying there, G, as well. We have this thing with Angel and Eric. Sometimes they'll have crazy ideas where they'll think, let's run 2 fucking Sentinels, 2 Duelists, and no smokes. But the players have also got to say, like, listen, no. Like let's be honest, no. Like, and I think that's maybe what Liquid are lacking, where, like, I want to say that authoritative voice, but, like, someone just to say, listen, this is cuckoo. Like, this is retarded. I'm not doing this. Like, let's stop this here and let's move on. I think, like, that's what we have now in FPX, which I really like. Like every player has a voice. Every player can go like, listen, don't like this. Let's move on. Let's do something else. And I think that's just something that I think they'll get over it in time. But yeah, I think it's just we'll see what happens with them. To be honest, with all the comms and all the crazy stuff they do.
People don't know, by the way, Sliggy has one of the most unusual backgrounds of anyone that came to Valorant, which is basically when he left CSGO, he was the #1 observer of the game. He was the guy who actually did the camera movements in the game. And that was actually like his claim to fame, sort of. And then he moved over and did this. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's a guy who's put in 1 billion hours because he's watched like every bloody game of CS for the past 5 years.
People also like don't realize how much observers have to know the game.
Oh, it's mad.
Good observers. Like, I think just as a side note, like that goes so under the rug. Like, people have a lot of opinions about observers and whether they're good or bad, but you have to, like, the observers that I remember we had a really, really close relationship with the observers that we had in Rainbow Six when I was on the EU League. And I probably would, even by the time that I kind of stopped working on Rainbow Six, I think the guy who was considered the best observer probably still had like infinitely more game knowledge than I ever did. And I was a fucking analyst. So
for my money, you should almost be like IGL level if you're going to do it, because you have to essentially know like what they're running. You have to know where to be. Exactly.
You've got to like see like 3 steps ahead in the future.
People don't realize it's a massive skill.
I feel like in CS League he was the best though. Like I remember watching him. The guy wouldn't miss a kill. The guy would follow the game. Like I remember we moved over to Valorant to the start, and we like you gotta realize it's the beta, and there's like all like shitty 500 cash cups. Obviously they have like their own little mate who's getting as a little observer. We would be watching them, and me and Sliggy would be like, "What is this guy doing?" Like the guy wouldn't get any kills, and like they wouldn't understand the game, so they'd be like, "Oh, what's this updraft?" Like, and I think observing in Valorant is a lot harder though as well, because like
I can believe it.
So many things can like happen. So many things can like you don't know who's gonna pop off. One guy can TP over across the map all of a sudden, and it's like it's so much happen. But I think Sliggy was genuinely the best. I mean,
it was mega.
I'm surprised he even moved over, to be honest, because like I feel like he could have literally. He could still be now. Like if he went back to CS:GO, he'd still be a #1 observer.
He could, but here's the problem. Right, look, as people who have worked in broadcast, I can tell you don't always get the money that fans always think you do. It depends what the gig is and who the person hiring. But it's way worse if you're an observer, because here's the problem. If the observer does his job, he's invisible. You forget he exists. You just think you're watching the game. So the problem is you don't actually ever get that famous no matter how good you are. And on top of it, the TOs don't really want you to be because they don't have to pay you more. So sadly, as much as I agree, he was mega at his job and I thought he did a great job for CS, I can totally understand why he wants a job where, he actually has like a name, value, and get a nice salary, career progression, a million factors. Yeah, of course.
I feel like what would observe as well, by the way, just a little point out, you only notice them when they're shit.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Like when you're watching, like, let's say a new game like Rainbow Six or League of Legends or anything, you'll only notice them when you're like, well, what's going on? Like, what am I missing? Like, what's happened there? Like, when everything's going as usual, you're like, oh, this is normal. Like, this is what I expect.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like you shouldn't notice the observer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I even had a mad, like, low-key awkward thing happen not that long ago where last year, like something like a month before I did the bloody CSGO major, I was doing some tournament. It was actually a CIS qualifier for it, right? And when I was doing this, I just made some comment, like, on Twitter, like I just watched a round and someone fucked up the whole round and, like, made it look really bad and, like, missed, like, some epic simple kills or something. And so I just did a tweet where it was a hot take, of course, but the hot take was, like, you know, like, whoever did this has no business, like, working in Counter-Strike. And the worst thing was, it was actually, I didn't know, some, like, UK guy from the UK scene who knew me. And he was like, oh, it was actually me. Like, yeah, okay, maybe I had a bad game. And then even better, I saw he was hired for the major. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to have to see this guy now. Oh, bloody hell. So I had to just be like, all right, mate, everyone has a bad day, you know. So, like, I know, it's rough, isn't it? Because I was just, because in that moment, I was just being the fan, wasn't I? Like, oh, fucking fire these guys. And I was like, oh, shit, fuck, there's a real person. Bloody hell. Oh, shit, what have I done now?
Shit, that's a real person. It's like the mantra of Reddit.
That is esports, isn't it? You remember there's someone behind the monitor and there's not just a character. Right, let's get into the actual tournament then. So one thing I want to ask is this. Let's just start at the top, artists. Being as there is no Sentinels. I'm joking there for any fans who thought they were going to win. There is no M3/Gambit. Here's the question. Who is the favourite for this tournament?
In my opinion, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I think Optic. I know they've been getting farmed in scrims.
Okay.
I know
that's Gio's favourite team.
Yeah, like, I mean, the NA guys are funny, by the way. You know, like, the NA mentality, a little off topic here again, but the NA mentality, by the way, they are the funniest. The guys come over, like, every NA team, apart from the guys, we haven't scrimmed them yet. Guys come over and they start, like, they get a kick out of talking shit in scrims. They'll come in and they'll be like, listen, Thorin, you're shit, bro. You're like, they'll be like, your bomb site's free. Like, they'll try and get in your head with, like, what is it? Mental, like I don't know what you call it, like mental
psychological warfare.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you gotta realize everyone in the EU is like super polite, super respectful of like, oh, great scrim, thank you for the time. Okay. And then they come over, they're like, fucking Angel, bro, what are you doing? No wonder you're 40 running it down. Do you know what I mean? Like, the NA, honestly, when the NA people come over, it's the
that's pretty good. I actually like that. It's pretty funny though.
Yeah. Because the thing is, when you're not used to it, you're like, wow, what the fuck?
I know, exactly. It's so obnoxious, isn't it? I know. Yeah. Mate, he's a legend. What are you doing?
I remember when we first made the team, we practiced Optic, like, this is like months ago. This is Optic, like, this is, I think they were called Envy or like whatever they were called before. And anyway, we go in. We obviously had a few good scrims. Like, they beat us some, we beat us some, whatever. And there was one scrim, I remember we farmed them. We were literally just dominated them the whole time. They started to pause, like, who the fuck are these guys? Where the fuck did these come from? Like, I remember the FNS say, like, why the fuck are you guys not at Rajcula? Like, who the fuck are you guys? Like, bro, I was in tears, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's because I'm not used to it, and then it's funny.
It does make me laugh that it's the team that you're talking about is the team that have played under like the two biggest Call of Duty banners, and that is such a Call of Duty thing to do. Like, that is like,
yes.
Which is, by the way, why I fucking love Call of Duty esports, because the like just attitude and the trash talk, and it's even from the audience, if you go to a UK event, is like all of that. Like, it just never ends, and it's hilarious. So I think it's great.
I feel like that's why Optic are good, by the way. Like, they've been a team for a while, like the same five. Like, that's why I don't know. Like, obviously the odds and all like that, who's actually favourites and that. But like, for me, I just see them like they're drilled. They know what they're doing well. Like, they might lose to some teams, but I feel like they're the most consistent because you realise like Fnatic have got standings. Liquid don't look really good. Like, I'm gonna be honest, they're like, obviously they might have a wonder run. G2 are like. G2 are just G2. Like, one day they'll be the fucking best team in the world, and the next day they're just like, how are you losing that game? Like, so for me, from what I've seen, I haven't scrimmed them yet this week or whatever it is. But what I've seen them at the games at NA, the guys just look good. Yeah, everyone in their team's good at their role. Like, there's no one player that can say this guy's weak, this guy's weak. So I'm hedging my money towards Optic this season or this Masters.
Ooh,
I think
that's pretty big.
I'm in a similar boat because if Fnatic didn't have stand-ins, I would probably say Fnatic. And that's what I was leaning towards before. That said, like, because this was something I was thinking about a little, like, towards the end of playoffs. I didn't expect Optic to do as well as they did in playoffs. And the fact that Optic were as dominant as they were has really like refreshed my belief that actually this is a very, very scary team. Like I thought that they were really great anyway, but I thought that C9 were going to beat them. And the fact that they beat C9 and then C9 just kind of flamed out the way that they did, for me, I was like, oh shit. And I think also with Optic is like the fact that, you know, for example, we were talking earlier about like teams that want to be the meta setting ones. They have really kind of brought this whole like neon play and made it their thing. And when they first did it, it had good ideas, but didn't actually work as well as they wanted it to. But for playoffs, they brought it back and they improved it. So the fact that they have like really like knuckled down on these ideas that they want to develop, and they've put in the work to make those ideas like relatively infallible, I think is a really terrifying thing if you're another team that needs to go up against this team. Because I think Optic, ironically, because this is a problem they had at Champions, which I think is why they didn't do so great, have so much contingency. And yeah, during champs, like even just on like a smaller scale, like they would be in games like, and just didn't have contingency plans when things go wrong. But I feel like this version of Optic just have so many things in their arsenal that they can just pull out and be really good at. And so, yeah, it's that consistency thing that I think is the scariest thing about Optic. And I think also considering the fact that North America have been playing on this patch a little bit longer than mostly everyone else in the world, I think, maybe gives them a bit of an advantage there because they've just had the time to develop that. So they brought the new ideas in weeks like 5 and 6, whatever it was of the stage, and then they developed them in playoffs. Whereas everyone else has had to just go into playoffs and they're like, right, we just need to qualify through playoffs. We're not here to like experiment. And I think that gives them an advantage for sure.
I think the biggest thing is like everyone else just looks so weak. Honest, like
you can find a flaw in everyone else.
Yeah.
Like there's something that you can point out about everyone else and be like, yeah, so like that could be, you know,
like a reason to doubt them.
Like on other teams, like on other events, you'd have like Gambit flawless, you'd have Ascend flawless, you'd have like other teams from NA. Like you see so many other good teams. Like right now, I feel like even though I think Optic can win, it's a coin flip. Like I can see, like I can easily see G2 with it, even though I don't think they will. But I can easily see like anyone can win it. That's the way. Like,
what do you think about the guard?
See, this is a big like I've watched them play and they look good, but like this is a big test. Like I don't think no one's seen them at a big event, so it's like Trent looks like one of the best players in Medical. I think he's like him and Leaf are literally hands down one of the 2 best players from NA, you know, by a mile. So like it'll be nice to see Leaf at this high level. You're gonna realize there's gonna be a lot of pressure. But like as well, like for VALORANT to IGL, like it's gonna be like I don't know, it's a different experience. And like that's the thing, I don't know what to expect, to be completely honest. Where like I feel like they could do decent. I don't see them going far. But like again, like, I could be eating my words in like a couple of weeks, but I just see the pressure getting too much and then not playing as well as they can. I think individually they'll be good, but like there'll be a few key rounds which they lose because of like nerves and other stupid shit. But like again, yeah, I think they'll finish like top. Like they'll be like top 8, I guess, top 4. Like I don't know. It's like a lot of it depends on the bracket as well. Because if you get like one of the Asian teams, like love and life, really, to be honest. Like it's just the way it is, and like
you know, X10. Oh, it's not X10 anymore, is it? Zerzia. Like they could end up, you know, being a bit of an upset team again. But I like the fact that they have the grudge match with Optic as their like first thing. I think that will be a really, really fun game because obviously they are the team that eliminated Envy at Champions. But I look at that and I'm like, this version of Optic, I don't see them being able to be beaten in that game like they did.
I think Optic just looked too strong. Like, I think a lot of the game, like obviously I don't know how NA prepare for games, but you have to analyze them. Like someone needs to be in Envy's. Like I think it's Chet right now, or Chet. I think his name's Chet.
Yes.
Like he's got to watch them and go, listen, boys, they like to do this. Like because Asian teams are famous for like doing the executes. Like they're famous for like if you give them the space in Valorant, they'll have some fucking 40s fucking ability execute where you genuinely cannot stop. Like even if you're the best team in the world,
execute it perfectly, it just works, right? Yeah.
Like they have them perfect executes. Like they have them. So like a lot of teams where like I think Fnatic do it now, where every time they play like them, like I don't know what they're called now, but like they were called Vision Strikers. I don't know what the name is now. That's like
DRX.
DRX, that's right, yes.
When every time they play them, you just have to be aggro super early on.
Yes.
Like, you can't give them the space. But like, as long as Optic realise that, I feel like if they have someone watch the games, and like, there's no way they should lose, in my opinion, anyway. But
I've got a couple of points on this, though. Like, one, on the thing you're saying here, that's also basically a thing that was a case in CSGO as well, and CS in general, which is because the Asian teams were somewhat isolated, and they would have to try, like, that approach. You either have to do, like, a mega execute that works no matter what, even if you know what's coming, or you have to play very methodical, because the premise goes, you're not actually sort of getting all the practice and all the scenarios in the game to make the decisions. So basically, if you played sort of a bit poggy against them, they just got lost because they didn't know what, like, the correct answer was in that moment. They couldn't sort of, like, on the fly, because they just weren't playing as much. They didn't have the same meta grounding. And on the Optic thing, actually, an interesting detail if people want to know is there's actually a relationship that comes from CSGO, which is Chet, who was formerly known as I'm a Pet. He actually was the coach of FNS's team, CLG, way back in the day. We're talking like 7-8 years ago, when they used to have Tarek and people like that on their squad. And actually, one of the things this guy was famous for is he was one of those people who was like a head coach, but to me, he was more like an analyst, because basically his famous thing was he would just be in those fucking demos. Like, you know, if you're at a LAN and like you finish your game at 9 p.m, he's the motherfucker who would go to bed at like 5 a.m. because he's been watching all the demos for the team you're going to play. But that would be his approach. He's always looking for something that can counter you. In fact, in CS, they used to do a very interesting thing where obviously the ban in Counter-Strike is map, right? They would actually intentionally let the good team have the map they're good on, because that way they know you'll pick it, and then they would just study all night and try and find counters. So they're even a team actually with that relationship where I'm sure they're going to have like you would hope they'd be the team that do the scouting here and try and figure out what this team's going to do, because it sounds like a slam dunk if you get it nailed.
I think with scouting as well is that you can easily see like tendencies. Like
right.
It's like I remember early on in Valorant, like people would do this thing where they'd leave Cypher on one side. Like some teams obviously do it, but like they're the lower skilled. And you just knew in your head that like Cypher's A, the whole team's B.
Right.
And like
yes.
obviously that's like basic, like this is like at the start of the game, but like it's shit like that when you realise like, okay, when the sky flashes this, that means 90% of the time the guys are gonna be all A. And like that's like the stuff that you need to look out for, like when you're anti-stats. Like it's all the little small tells where like once you have enough small tells, you'll be able to read the whole game fully. And it's like sometimes as well, some people go too deep with it as well, where it's like, oh yeah, this one flash here, and then he reloads here. It's like, so it goes both ways. But I think Chet will do a good job. Honestly, I think I hope they win as well. But yeah.
I think one of the other things that's worth so there are two things that are worth considering. A, Patapan was a big part of why X10 won that game. And actually they were having like, what was it? They were having a really, really shit attack. And then it was when they went onto the defense that Patapan just like completely tore the whole team apart or something. But the other thing is, I think that, and this kind of goes into what you were saying before about like the Asian teams usually having really great executes, is that X10 in that game were very aggressive very early on. They moved very much as a unit. So they all stayed kind of together and had this real like holistic way of going about things. But they forced Envy into playing very passively. Now, the thing that I think is worth considering here is that even if they do the same thing, I think that Optic now could play that quite strategically, give space away, and then play very well for retakes. I think that's something that they would be very good at if they felt like they had to do that, or if they felt like that was the best way of kind of using Xerxes' aggression against them, right? It's like if they want to use all of their like attacking utility early to gain space on sites, don't even take those fights and then play for a retake. And I actually think that Optic now would be way better prepared for something like that than Envy were back in Champs. So like, I think there is that balance where it's not even just about like directly countering like what it is that the team are doing, but also understanding that you're in a way better position now to kind of let them do their play style, and then you can come back and actually like do something about that later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the play like it matters what the play style will be, because you don't know if the X, what is it called? X, I don't know what the name is.
Xerxes. Yeah,
they
I think that's
might have like completely changed the playstyle as well, because a lot of teams like to do, whereas they just completely, like they just change it up, so like everything that you look at will be completely different. So I mean, I think though even with the changes and stuff, I think Optic should be comfortable in that win. I think I think if Optic don't win that, they're going to be super down on themselves. I think so. yeah, I mean, yeah, that's my take on it.
By the way, one thing I've noticed you guys have to do in Valorant, not least because you don't have that many events, but also because the lands are so far and few between. You're in the same spot we are in CSGO, where in the old days, before everything went online, like there was just so many lands. There genuinely was a land like every week and a half, 2 weeks. So you could just know how good someone is, basically. Like you can, like, true, if it was like a major, maybe they might get intimidated. But generally, you know what their form is, basically. You guys have the same problem we do, which is you also have to figure out, right, this team is amazing online, but like, has this core ever even played a LAN? Like, has this star player ever played a LAN? Like, are they only good online at the moment? Like, you have to figure it out, right? And the problem with that is you're always just rolling the dice. Like, you'll get a player who does just show up and they just mega on day one. You have some players that are amazing online and it just takes them forever. So, are there any teams that are standing out when I'm talking about this artist? Who are you sort of looking for, like, you're a bit uncertain about, or they're going to have to be really good to be as good as they were online?
I think Guard is the one for me. Like, the Guard that obviously online are, like, I don't want to say incredible, but they're really close to incredible. Do you know what I mean? Where, like, everything goes the way. Trent looks comfortable every time he plays. Like, the guy looks like, I mean, genuinely looks like one of the best players in the world. Sure. And, like, it's... The thing is, I feel bad. I know this is, like, a little bit off topic, but I feel bad for the players who play bad. Imagine you're, like... Imagine there's one event every 3 months, and you do bad at it. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, this guy's shit. This guy's shit.
That's your reputation.
Yeah, that's like... And, like, that's the problem in Valorant, where, like, one bad event... And you could be kicked from your team because like teams are going to realize, we got 6 months until the next event. What do we do? And right now it's super hard to prove yourself. Obviously, the players who are doing good, they're loving life. They're fucking loving it. Like they do good for one event, and they're like, boom, the offers are coming in left, right, and center. So it's like, yeah, I mean, but going back onto the thing, it's like for me, I think not Optic, what they call Guard. I think Guard is going to be like the biggest one because if they carry the same form on, they'll go far. But yeah, it's just it just depends if the players turn up. I feel like G2 as well a little bit, to be honest.
I was going to say G2.
Yeah, like they have a few players where like obviously they have the experience of like Mixwell and like Nuki's obviously been to LANs and like they've all been to LANs, but I can see them just wobbling a little bit when it comes to the to Masters. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
I think the other thing with G2, and this is kind of what immediately came to mind for me, is a lot of the reason that they did well at Masters 3 was because Kellogg's really popped off. Like he got the LAN buff, right? Like he kind of was the, people didn't really know how he would do. And he'd always been kind of quiet up until that point. And then he really popped off on LAN and he's not on the team anymore. And I have like remained decently skeptical of like Mixwell, being the Jet player. And I do wonder how much of a difference in like his performance or like the performance of that role and how there is going to be based on the fact that he's playing instead of Kellogg's and like how much of an impact that's going to have on the team's overall performance. Like, I'm not concerned that it's going to like mean that they are first rounded or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen at all. And especially not if Nuki is going to keep playing like the way he has mostly been playing throughout the course of this
I think that's the win condition. I think Nuki is the win condition. I think like...
But if you're going into a LAN and one player is your win condition, that is already like bad news.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's been playing so good where it's like, if they did lose, it's like, how can they lose, basically? Obviously, if he continues the form that he's been doing online, I can see them doing like just numbers on games. But it's like in my opinion, that's their win condition because I feel like Mixwell obviously he's a stable player. He's like a stable Jet where like he won't pop off. He won't give you like 400 ACS. He won't go quad neg. Like he'll do his job and that's his role basically. And other players just have to step up. Like Nuki just has to like just literally play lights out like he normally does. The same with like Meadow. I think Meadow stepped up massively as well. I think Meadow literally is like. I feel like he's reinvented himself as a player. Honestly, like he's just individually, he's really good right now.
By the way, I wanted to get your take in general on G2, because obviously once upon a time, they were like, along with Team Liquid, they were supposed to be the shining stars of Europe. Like, they're the team that if you look at the org, you should always be able to get good players if you're G2. Yep. They might be the best esports org in the fucking world. And if people don't know, the reason why I'm interested to know is because I'm actually quite good friends with Carlos, the owner of G2. And I know that the way he runs his teams, he is a super hands-on owner. Like, for real, he is sometimes directly involved with who players get signed to the different teams. But I know his approach as a result is he sort of has a guy in each team, you know. So in CSGO, once upon a time it was Shocks, and now it's like Nico or whatever. And in League of Legends, it was Perks, and now it's Caps, right? The thing is, in Valorant, the obvious player it would be, because he was in G2 and CSGO, is Mixwell, right? So my question is this, Ardiis, is one, are they actually getting enough good players in that sense? I'm surprised G2 can't just get anyone they want. And secondly, is Carlos, has he got too much of a sweet spot for Mixwell or something? Is that the problem? If he wasn't mates, would that be the cut you make? What do you think?
I think they cut him already, so I feel like they can't be that close. Like,
true.
I mean, I think that was the case in the past, but I feel like Mixwell's not the. I think the problem is where, like you say, where Carlos puts so much weight on one player, like Perks or something. It doesn't go well. That's the person you're looking at. Like, so, like, let's say the league, like, obviously, you know, the League of Legends team's doing really good. Let's say they weren't doing really good, and they started bombing out. Then Perks is saying, let's kick Wonder, let's kick this guy, let's kick that guy. And all of a sudden, you're still shit. And Carlos would be like, listen, you're gone now. Do you know what I mean? And like, I think that's the same case now. Where
are they getting to this point now? Then it must be surely without the results.
From what I've heard, Nuki's got the roster now, so it's like Nuki's got the power. Where like if he wants to do anything, it's like I don't want to say he's got like the final say, but I know like he's got like a big say. But I don't know. It's like with that style, it's like it's super brutal because with G2, you know what the G2 were like. If you don't do good, you're kicked.
Yeah. If people don't get it, they're not just talking a good. Like every org says they want to win. They're the org where for real. Like this just happened in CS:GO. People don't know. They came second at the major, but because I'd told Carlos, like, look, mate, your team still isn't actually good enough to win. They still cut people from the team. There's people who came second at the World Championship and lost their job. But that's because, like we're talking about, the expectation is if you aren't the best now, you better be in like 6 months, 3 months, 9. Like that's the direction it has to go eventually. Basically,
that's the thing with Carlos and G2 as a thing. Like they want the best in every game. Like whether it doesn't matter whether it's fucking Rocket League, whether it's Minecraft competitive teams or whatever it is, they want the best of the best of the best. Probably, honestly, you know what G2 probably.
Believe it, yeah, true.
Like that's the thing. It's also brutal as a player though, where like you know where if you have a bad event, you're thinking in the back. I remember one thing we were at LAN at boot camp and we were playing with a standard. Obviously, like you don't expect that much.
No.
I was like, yeah, obviously don't listen, boys. Don't expect that. It just you trying to put the pressure off. You know what I mean? Like obviously, like, oh, don't worry. Like if everything goes well, it goes well. If it goes bad, it goes bad. All of a sudden, like in my head, I knew I was like, he's chatting absolute whammy. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it was like, boom, someone's gone instantly. As soon as we lost it, I was like,
okay.
As a player, though, you got to realize that though. I like this, and the thing is, I know it's G2 as well. I think G2 are a little bit more ruthless than other Tier 1 orgs. It's all Tier 1 orgs. The teams like Liquid, teams like 100 Thieves, like
the other ones just do a better job with the messaging. Yeah. Like I said, they sound like they kick. Oh, we didn't want to have to kick him, and he's a great guy. I hope everyone else picks him up. But you know, behind the scenes, they ruthlessly like he's just not good enough. Get the next guy in. Yeah, of course.
And that's what I love about Carlos. Like even though I got fucking yeeted, but he's up front. He's
just honest, right?
Like he'll just
Carlos
go listen.
never lies about it. I think that's one thing. Is like he's very happy to own the fact that that's how he does things. Which is like, all right, well, he's not trying to conceal it.
I mean, they also meme about it, like oh yeah, we'll just kick Nico,
true.
Like, and it's like, like even if it's like be a half truth, you're like, oh, you know, like that's.
It's a bit wild still, though. Yeah, there's definitely a grain of truth to it, which is what makes it wild. Yeah,
they'll just say like, oh, this guy's been underperforming, like, and then they meme about it. The Twitter team do it as well. Like, they've got like the social team, like that's like the good and bad thing about G2. Because imagine you're a player like who doesn't have a strong mental, and then all of a sudden you went double neg. And you load up Twitter and your own organisation's going, yeah, at least we got fucking going 0-9. You know what I mean? Like it's I think you have to have a certain mindset for it. And
the genius that they've got, if you think about it, is they know that nowadays the other social media team is going to flame you anyway. So it's like they may as well get the engagement off their own players being flamed. It's actually like low-key genius if you can get the players to agree to it.
I mean, I don't think the players can agree. I think
you just have to. Yeah, you just have to put it
written into their contracts.
Exactly. Indeed. Now, what about this then? Because one thing I also find a bit wild about this tournament, dude, is like we didn't talk about this in any past episodes, but the way they've made the format now, where your online placement, if you place top, you just skip straight to the playoffs. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that seems a bit, because that means, like I was saying before about like onliner teams, dude, if anyone just onlined and came first, like we won't actually find out that they're not good until the playoffs. Like that could be wild.
I think the benefit of that is though some of the games you miss are just pointless. To be honest, like you're playing like I don't want to be too toxic.
Just bad teams,
playing bad teams that you know you're going to beat, and it's like if you're top seed, like because you realize if you don't have a top seed, an incentive to like skip groups. final 3 matches of like the regular playoffs are going to be pointless. No one's going to give a shit. Like everyone's going to be like, "Oh, what am I playing for? Extra 5k?" Like it's like obviously you want it, but like it's not like you'd be like showing
It's not like
stats
changing money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't be going that extra step. But then if someone says to you, "Oh yeah, you miss all of group stage and you have to travel 6 days later," it's like, "Ooh, actually, you know, I might start focusing on this a little bit more." And that's like, I think that's the good part, because I remember before in NA, people just throw the games. Like they'll literally just do some cuckoo comp where
no one not show anything away, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think Riot understood that like we need something to play for, so that makes sense from that point of view. But either way, it's still a bit like, I mean, you finish top seed and you're missing half the event.
The much better thing about it is that we get a fucking double elimination bracket as a result. Like, and I don't know. I know everyone has their own opinions on like whether they think single elim, double elim is better. I am like a vehement defender of double elimination bracket. I think it is the best format. I love it. I think it's great. And then I think it also makes more sense for like teams to actually have a bye if the bye is into a double elimination bracket. If it's into a single elimination bracket, then it's like, okay. But for a double elimination bracket, it's like they get that one bye, but like a double elim bracket is still quite grueling. Like you still have to make the whole way through it. And having a bye is not necessarily just like a guarantee to get like really far in it. So for me, like I prefer it because of that. I would rather have the bigger bracket, and then there feel like there's more weight to the games, because even early on in the bracket, it's like, okay, either this team is about to drop to the lower bracket, or this team are about to be eliminated from the bracket because they've come up against this fucking team or whatever. Like, I just think it's way better to watch.
As a player as well, it's better. Like, I think it just, sometimes you have that like game where you just fall off and like all of a sudden you're still in the tournament, you're still in the event.
Yeah.
But early on in Valorant, some of the fucking formats that we got were a joke. I remember there was like a 25, 50,000 event. I can't remember the exact prize pool. Format they had was a best of 1 to the final. So I was playing quarters. We were playing quarters. We were playing like G2. We were playing FPX. Playing all these top teams in a best of 1 till the final. And then they say, you know what they said to us? Play the final best of 5. I was like, like
that is mad, isn't it?
Actually, do we know what the final format is for this? Are they going to have like a map advantage or anything like that? Like, have they said?
I don't know, but I feel like it'll be exactly the way it is in online, when it's we have like a best of 5, but you have the veto advantage, where you have like a big veto advantage over the team. Don't think you get the map advantage. I think it's the veto one. To me, that would make sense, because I think a map advantage, even though it's fair, it's a bit brutal. Like, it's a bit like, you really
it's a bit too final, I always say, yeah.
One of the
thing I
like disgust things.
Yeah, what I always say is, like, I want you to have an edge, but you still have to, like, use the edge. Yeah. You still have to win the game, you know, like, that's, but I'm with you. If you get the 1-0 start, it's like, in your brain, it just feels like you don't have the same pressure.
It's like, technically, the most fair way would be to have 2 best of 3s for the final. But if the upper bracket team wins the first best of 3, then it's fucking boring as a grand final. It's like, I don't want to watch 2 maps.
That's
as
the
a
downside,
grand final.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's like, that's, you know, I'm like, yeah, you know, in theory, that's like the fairest way, but actually, like, from an observing perspective, like, that's really potentially boring as hell. So
I do think, though, I'll add a point to your list of things you list off. That one thing I think, especially for Valorant, by the way, will be amazing about having double elim is if you get to see 2 teams actually play a playoff series twice, then you'll get to see the between the games adaptation. Like, the team will have just played them already in that meta, on that patch, at that event. Think how rare that you ever get to see like a proper series like that. That means, in theory, the team that wins in the upper bracket might not even win in the final if they meet. Who knows? Could add an interesting wrinkle.
That's another mind games coming as well, where it's like, oh, we've done this stat already. Yes. Like, do they expect us? Do we do it twice? It's like, oh, we done this pistol last time. There's no way they expect us to do it again. Like, it comes like a little chess game, little like hypothetically. Do you know what I mean?
I was thinking, I swear that happened in the NA playoffs, and it did. Optic and the Guard played in the upper bracket final and then came together in the grand final. Yeah. And in the upper bracket final, Optic won 2-0, and in the grand final, the Guard won 3-2. So that's literally an example of what you just described, which, like, yeah, I agree. I fucking love that shit.
Some games will have more pressure as well, where like it's obviously the best of 5 grand final. This is like the win it all. Like, so it's like gives them more pressure, which I like it overall. And then obviously there's some events where like some of the playoff games and like the games like just don't mean that much. Like, you win or you won, whatever. then you go to a grand final, all of a sudden the pressure's on and then all the players are crumbling, and it's nice, I think.
I am still like a defender of the idea that, personally for me, the best game in a double elimination bracket is the lower bracket final.
Yeah.
I always think that is just the most fun game, because it's just, there's so much like electricity in it, because it's like, oh my god, they're so close, and one of these teams is just, they've made it this whole way and they're about to have to go home.
For me, it's the whole
huge.
lower bracket. I think, honestly, the lower bracket where like that is what's the word? Like flight or like I don't know what the word is, but like
fight or flight or whatever.
Fight or It's like it's either going home or you progressing, and like the upper brackets are like, oh well, okay, they win, okay, they go on to the next, okay, they lose, like okay, they'll just go to the lower bracket. But in the lower bracket, it's all of a sudden like the favorite teams are mapped down, and you're like, oh, this could get spicy. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I like about it. But yeah, I mean, that's the best part. I mean, it makes it makes me want to watch. It makes me feel like I've got money on the game. Like that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah. And like the teams made like lower bracket runs and shit, and it's like they have the miracle run, and it's like I don't care what region you're from, I don't care what the team is, like I'm rooting for you because you made it this far.
Sure. Yeah, the only thing is, though, I will say, if you're a fan and you haven't followed many Riot games, it might seem weird that not only do you get like the fucking bye to the playoffs, but that they do it for every region. So essentially, Riot's pretending every region is just miraculously equally good. Right? Spoiler, if you followed League of Legends, they're going to do that the whole time, by the way. They'll never stop that, because unfortunately, their philosophy is sort of like they think if you give teams like the equal treatment, that eventually everyone will be equal. But unfortunately, like, I mean, spoiler, in League of Legends, like Turkey isn't as good as China, for example. Like, it's not really a surprise on that one, you know. But it's just, so they might. Here's the thing: they might tweak it over time. They might give like slightly more spots at the event to a region. But actually, I think they will always do this. Like, believe it or not, if they keep this format, the number one seed from Brazil or from APAC, or they will always get a spot. The
way I see it right now, the reason they do it is just for viewership. Because you're going to be like...
It's like a marketing thing.
Yeah. Definitely helps with the Brazilian one, put it out with. That's like a very good idea if you want to get a load of viewers on that match. Yeah.
I swear they've got like, I can't remember, like, I mean, that might be wrong on this, but they've got like Latin America qualifier, and then they've got a Brazilian qualifier, just in case a Brazilian team doesn't qualify. Okay. It's like...
just to guarantee you get the fans for it, right?
Yeah, it's like... So the way I see it, it's like they don't really give a shit about the most competitive teams.
Yes.
They just want to maximize the exposure they can get for the event, which also makes sense for a new game.
There's a Brazilian team going in from Brazil Challenges. There's a LATAM team going in from LATAM Challenges. And then there is a Brazilian team that is going in from the LATAM versus BR playoffs, which is Ninjas in Pajamas. They've got one Argentinian player, but other than that, they're all Brazilian. But like, to be honest, like, I know that the whole like Brazil thing is a bit of a meme in basically every esport at this point, but like, if you were a publisher running an esport and you didn't do some kind of
you got a caught them to some degree, yeah, of course.
No, you'd be so dumb. Like, and you know, like it does like add to the spice a little bit.
Yes. The two main regions in CSGO, basically, that we discovered, like, made the game more than just, like, mainland Europe, which is what it was. Before, it was mainland Europe, and if America's good, maybe the Americans watch. What made the game expand was Brazil, because it brought part of South America in, and then the other one was CIS region, which obviously... not the best time to be talking about one, but whatever. We'll let that one go. Luckily, they skipped that one. They didn't fuck that one up, because if they were cynical, by the way, they actually should also have a CIS one. But again, you've probably actually dodged a bullet on that one by having the EMEA make it all one region. So I guess for the moment, we're safe on that one.
They have a CIS qualifier to the main league, like the playoffs. That got cancelled.
Exactly.
Wars RIP this, so
it was the same for the regional leagues as well. Like the CIS one isn't playing in the regional league playoffs.
The problem is, as far as I know, again, without going into it, as far as I know, I think it's because the people who were going to be the operators of those tournaments themselves were like companies in Russia or something. And there was something like that was like they had to sort of just quietly move it all out the back door, and we just moved on with the event, obviously. Right, here's my question though. I actually have a question about Fnatic ardiis, which goes like this. Right, obviously there's also a player on that team who has a certain circumstance that's extenuating, said some silly things on Twitter, which is the reason why he isn't at the event. Brave Af, right?
Yeah.
But how is this team going to do? Because obviously now they're coming with all these stand-ins and this scenario, it's a new patch, etc. What are your actual expectations for Fnatic?
My expectations at first were low, because they're the team that relies on Deka, and Deka weren't going to the event. So I was expecting like like, you know, a top half finish, like a decent enough finish, but not on too good. Now that Dirk is back, I think that's their win condition. Like that's like the Nuki of G2. Like Dirk is like, if Dirk pops off, they've won the game. And like that, like Dirk, like for me, Dirk is Fnatic for me personally. And now that he's back, it's a big advantage for them. Like they can actually go into games. I think they're a contender to go to the final as long as they get like a nice bracket. Because I know Boast is a guy who watches the demos. He'll watch all the stuff. They've got Coach Mini as well. They're a drill team. They've got good players. I think Brave obviously was playing well as well, so it's a bit shit that he can't go. But obviously, you know, his circumstances is his fault.
Of course.
I mean, not fully, but anyway. But overall, I think they're a good team, and I think they could go on again. Yeah, it's just a big reason why they'll succeed. I think. Like, I just don't see them. I think they're a team where they'll beat every single lower team. Like every team that they should beat, they'll stomp.
They're the gatekeepers then.
Yeah. They like if they play like a Zerxia, they should beat them. They will beat them in my opinion. It's more like when it gets to like the pressure moments, that like that's where, like if they play Optic, I can see Optic beating them. Obviously, I can see Fnatic winning as well. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't think they're out there. Like they're not going to win any game, but I just think against bigger teams, I can see them struggling a lot more. In my opinion.
I think that of the two groups, Group B is probably the harder one. And so Fnatic are in Group A. And I think that group, which is Fnatic, NIP, DRX, and Zeta, like DRX are probably going to be the only team that's like a real threat to Fnatic in that group. I think NIP and Zeta, I would expect Fnatic to beat them. Obviously, you never know how it's actually going to go. You always get random upsets here and there. But I actually think that the other group is probably going to be more. I still think Optic's going to come the top of it because that's Optic, Xerxia, Crew, and Liquid. But it's like, even though Crew were like, I don't expect them to win the whole thing or anything, I actually still think Crew are a really good team. They got better at champs after Masters, but they still did pretty decently at Masters, or at least like showed a lot of potential at Masters, and won a lot of fans across the world actually as well. And it's the same roster. So I think that Crew are probably going to be like one of the better teams from the smaller regions, quote unquote. And then Liquid, it's like, yeah, I guess we'll see.
I think with Liquid... Crew is like, for me, it's like Fnatic, but like even in an extreme event where like, you know, the way Fnatic rely on Deka, they can still win a game or two where Deka doesn't pop off. With Crew, I feel like if Kesner doesn't perform well, they've lost. Like that, like
I think that he is a really big part of how they play, and like the Crew is also like a team where like they love playing like whichever duelist isn't the cool duelist to play. Like, you know, Kesner playing Reyna a lot was like the big thing at champs. They've been playing Phoenix recently in their like Haven comp again, so like really going back to like OG style Valorant, which I actually do want to see if they do that at this event. But yeah, I do wonder like how that will look, both from the perspective of like playing not necessarily like the meta style of duelist, but also relying on Kesner quite a bit.
Is he just some like stud player or something? Why is this guy so good?
He's like, the guy's like a grinder. Like, I remember watching his stream, the guy just plays the game a lot. The guy's incredibly individually gifted.
He's a big pop-off player.
Yeah, he's like a player. If he's feeling,
his agent pool looks pretty nuts. It looks like he plays whatever he wants.
Yeah,
yeah. I feel like he's one of them things. If he says I'm playing it, the team will go, go on. We trust you. We trust you. There's no, the game plan for them is Kesner go kill. Like that's like, I know that sounds basic, but that ain't like, let's go Kesner go kill.
If your player's good enough, that's a tactic.
Their big thing at champs was that they were the team that eliminated Sentinels.
Yes. I remember that because that's that's actually when I got drawn into it. I was like, oh, someone at war with the Brazilian fans, right? Come on, Richard, put the hard hats on, mate. Yeah, you remember that? I got drawn into that for like a week. But...
the other thing as well with Crew actually is that from what I can tell, just looking at their stats, they still like permaban Icebox, which was actually the map that they used to permaban as well, like back in those events towards the end of the year, which makes me wonder if like, because most teams don't have like the same permabans, especially now that like Breeze and Fracture are way more like integrated in the map pool. It does make me wonder if like they have the same map preferences as before, if that's going to be easy to kind of plan against because they haven't changed much in that way. But this was literally just me looking at stats. I can't say I've watched any LATAM challenges
Oh, fair
at this
enough.
stage.
By the way, on that level, ardiis, like obviously once upon a time, like there was the whole Vision Strikers team where all the people, I do notice it was a lot of people who write like narrative stories, not the analysts. They were all like trying to make it like, are they secretly the best team in Valorant? Like they were doing that fucking storyline like a motherfucker on all those main websites, right? I'm assuming at one point you have to at least like have a look over and see what they're up to, right? Have you ever watched like the DRX team or any of the VCT crew? Are they actually any good? What was your take?
I think they have good plans. Like they have like some overall, I don't think it's good to watch, but I think like they always have good executes. Like you got to realize if you're a team who's like, I don't know what we should do with an A take, they'll have an A take. That's unbelievable. Right. They would have fought it out. I remember when Vision Strikers were really good and they popped off. I remember in practice, every single team was copying this stuff. They used to have like this like flash peek thing with Breach and like where Breach flashes with the jet dashes. That was a thing even in ranked. I remember you played ranked and there'd be people whipping out the stuff from Vision Strikers.
Right.
Obviously, the thing is with that, it's only good when you don't expect it. You gotta be like, it only catches you off guard because you don't know, like you don't like what the fuck's this. When you played it in practice for 2 weeks straight, you're like, okay, they're gonna do Vision Strikers. So then like the meta just moves on really. Like obviously it'll be good for like a little couple of days or maybe a week or two, but the meta just moves on from like the Asian stuff. Like I think they just have like good like little mini plays basically, like little set plays where like they'll get you a little free kill. It's more like if you know to look out for it as a player, you'll just know, okay, this is happening. Like they'll have like a little camera setup where as soon as you see the camera and you kill it, you just know there's gonna be a stun. And guess what? There's a stun made. Like
yes,
as long as you've seen it before, like the take or the execute or whatever it is, it's completely fine. But if you don't know about it, like they'll get you, they'll kill you, they'll catch you off guard.
It's funny you mentioned that particular set play as well, because that is actually one of the things that Koreans in original Counter-Strike were famous for. It's because they couldn't practice anyone. They would just practice, dude. Like, and you come from CS, mate, you know this. Like, obviously the whole thing when you do an execute is, if in theory you want it to be that you only turn from the flash the second it pops and you turn back, right? But most teams, that's fairly loose, It's more like you just time it out. They would just time it down to the second, mate, and they were the most insane at, like, essentially getting maximum viewing time without ever being flashed. But the other guy that you're fighting in the duels always flashed. Like, it doesn't surprise me they've taken that approach because they're just mad. Yeah, they're just mad grinders, mate. They just fucking put in mad hours.
Like, I remember hearing stories about how much they played. Like this was back from like Masters. They'd spend like I think we spend a lot of time. They'd be spending fucking twice as much as we do. They'd be
as in when they're at the event, they just scrim the whole time or something.
Yeah. No,
right.
But we heard the schedule from the manager from like when they were back home. Even when they're back home, they're playing 8-9 scrims a day, which is to me is ridiculous. Like to me, like the quality just goes downhill after the 4th, 5th scrim. You know what I mean? These guys are doing 9 scrims, they're doing drilled stuff. That's why when I see them play, I know everything's thought out. Like it's very rare that someone's gonna go, I'm just gonna go swing this angle and kill them. Like a Dakin or a Keston style, where they're gonna say, like, I'm gonna go kill them. Every time you watch them, everything they do, there'll be a reason behind all, like a reason they think, and it's nice to watch, but it's weird. It's basically the best way to put it, like in my opinion. Yeah, robotic. Yeah. Like you feel like you're not in the game, if that makes sense. Like I don't know. It's because we've tried it as well. We tried the like super methodical play where you take this, you do that, you do that, you do that, you do that, and you feel like a robot. You don't feel like you're playing the game, which is
what I've noticed is very interesting, mate. Is that is literally one of the biggest divides in esports. In all the major esports that have like Korea and China, mainly Korea because they're the most famous for being disciplined. Is Europeans typically prefer essentially like the mentality of playing European football, soccer, which is it's more of an art than a science, isn't it? Like you might have like a tactical setup on how you play defensively, but you don't really plan out like the fucking cross and all that. Like that just happens because of the genius of the players. They have chemistry. They do it, but that is much more their philosophy is sort of like I'd call it flowchart Counter-Strike. I mean, you do A follows B follows C as these 3 options, and yeah, true. If you can sort of figure out what their plan is, you do know what they're going to do. But even then, good luck stopping it. They might just practice it to the nth degree.
Remember FPX because they're Chinese as well. Obviously, yes. I think their League of Legends team's super successful.
A couple of years ago, the Worlds. I
don't really follow that much, but I remember the org was like, listen, you guys are going to play 14 hours a day.
Oh, I heard about this. They were telling you that you had to like practice way more, right?
Yeah, like we were like we said to them, like, we're playing a lot. Like, we're not, so like, but you got to realize a lot to us is completely a lot to Asians. Like, they like, Chinese or like, I'm not sure exactly where FPX are from, but like, you got to realize they're playing 16 hours a day. Like, that's genuinely their routine. They wake up and like,
Oh my God.
I think it's just different cultures as well. It's like it's super crazy. It's like, I don't know. Like,
also, by the way, here's the reason why they can do it, because they don't even think about the concept of burnout. They're like, it's like the analogy I would give is like Hollywood, right? You know, you hear all these stories about like how insane it is to try and break into Hollywood. The reason why the conditions are so harsh is because if you don't want to do it, some other fucking guy's right behind you and he's going to do it. So it's like that over there. Like the premise is like the reason you wouldn't complain about those practice hours because they'll just get one of 50 other fucking people out the door that'll come in and play those hours because the gig's good, the money's great, you know. It's the world that they're in. Yeah,
I had that in CS where like you're playing so much, you're just like, I don't want to play anymore. Like it's like I want to play, and obviously I wasn't even at the top level, so I couldn't even imagine like people. I remember hearing the people in Tier 1 and like obviously the highest level be traveling outside of their home for like 270 days or something stupid like that. Like you realize that's like more than 3/4 of the year for abroad, or you're in a hotel, or like and like that's I was burnt out playing in my home. I couldn't imagine like being traveling across the world and stuff. And yeah, it's for me. I just couldn't do it, in my opinion. But yeah,
it's kind of crazy. I'm curious, like, how do you think that their matchup with Zeta Division is going to go? Because Zeta Division, in my opinion,
who they playing?
Zeta Division, the Japanese team.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think one of their biggest issues last year and why they didn't really do that great at Masters was Rayta, who was their jet player, like was just not doing great. Like if you actually look at the statistics of the games that they played at Masters, their like duelists were always kind of near the bottom on a lot of their stats, but they've actually replaced those players now. They've brought in Depp and Ten, who are I think Depp is their jet player, Ten is like their flex player, so he'll do a lot of like raise. And just looking at some of the stuff that they've done in Japan, which I know is a different like threshold of comparison to like the actual international stuff, they seem to at least be holding up more in those roles. But obviously DRX, like as we're just discussing, seem to be like super structured, have everything planned out. And my big thing for Zeta is like, are they going to get lured into being overly aggressive, which is something they were happy to do last year, and then just like be eaten up by like this really like that's robust setup?
That's the thing. And like in weaker regions, which Japan I think is like a weak region, you can beat them by being super aggressive. Like you can do just stupidly aggressive, non-stop things, and you get away with it because you are individually better. But I think the gap when they come over to the international events, the skill gap just like they're no longer the best player on the server. Like they're no like they've got no like the skill. Obviously they'll be very high skill themselves. It won't be to NA or EU. Like, if they were like just an EU player, they'd be an average player in like a tier 2 team, tier 3 team, and like they don't understand the fact that they've got to adapt. Like the stuff like the little mini plays and aggressive stuff that they do, they won't get away with that. Like that, it's like obviously when you're playing like a lower level, they could just kill everyone and get away with it. But when you're playing good teams, you do a stupid peak, you're getting punished instantly. And like that's just one thing. When I watch them, I want to look out for them just to adapt and like start playing. I'm more scared, but more methodical is the best way to put it, I guess.
Yeah, like I think that the big thing for Zeta Division with this event is that they pulled out of the APAC LCQs so they could restructure the team. So they didn't go to champs sort of by choice. I mean, who's to say if they would have won APAC LCQs, but they pulled out, didn't go to champs. And so this is the first international showing of like the reason they pulled out, right? It's like, okay, you decided to relinquish your opportunity to go to the World Championship to build this team.
So sort of gambled two events on this,
Right, it's like, here's your chance to actually show that this team was worth it. Which I think then going up against like the team that has been considered the best Korean team and one of the best teams in the world for a really long time, that's a highly pressurizing game to kick things off with.
Ardiis, I've got it's a potentially, it's a wee bit incendiary question. It goes like this, right? In every game I've ever followed, and especially FPS games, European players, at least behind closed doors, will always say they're better than North America. North America, like, you know, they're lazy, they also want to be famous, they only care about money, they all want to be the star, no one will be the shit fucking in-game leader and sport player. You know all the fucking shit. It's all the same from every game, mate. League of Legends, it's the same, right? My problem is this. I was getting told the same stuff the last couple of years by a couple of my mates who were in European Valorant, right? They were like, oh, these Americans, they're talking a good game with Sentinels and that, but like, just wait for the lands. Don't worry, we're way better. Like with G2, all the team, like we're just more skilled as well, you know, if anything. Like they were doing all that, right? Well, my problem is I've been watching the fucking big tournaments and they almost never happens, mate. I'm waiting for the European team to pop off and I look at this lineup here. Look, I understand Team Liquid wasn't supposed to be there. Fnatic has stand-ins. G2, like, there can't be an excuse for everyone though. Like, eventually the region has to perform.
I feel like we have performed. I feel like this event though, I think we won't perform. I think EU...
It's looking a bit dire, right? To win at least, to win the event.
I mean, I'm more confident in NA than EU. And that's not good because we've got more teams than EU. I mean, NA.
True.
And it's like, it's...
And EU in playoffs looked really fucking good. Like, playoffs was the first time that I was like, actually, like, EMEA might end up being the better region at Masters. And then, like, a bunch of stuff fell to shit with two of the teams. And I didn't think G2 were going to be the team that were going to make EMEA the best team at Masters. And now, it just feels like, oh, yeah, this was probably not going to be EMEA's event.
Now, the thing is with EU, though, I feel like we have been better. When you look at champions, there was I think every European team got more than past NA.
Yeah.
I think because the thing is, all the stuff you hear is probably all the stuff that I hear as well. And like, I mean, you know, people who've played in some of the teams, and obviously, like, you hear some of this, like, some of the stories where you think that shit just wouldn't go in a EU.
There's so much drama you hear about, isn't there, about fucking
drama's
players.
Another one. It's professionalism. Like,
right.
It's the same shit where, like, and listen to me, NA's way paid well better than EU, but like,
sure,
the levels are like I was saying before, like the shit talking, where like, you know, like that'll be common in NA, and I know it's common, where like they'll think of stuff to fucking shit talk you, and like that's fine. Like, I enjoy banter, but that's like, you should be focusing on the fucking game. You shouldn't be thinking like, oh, what's a good comeback I can say to Thorin to piss him off? Do you know what I mean? Like, like that shouldn't be in your head at all. Like, obviously it's fun, and obviously sometimes EU teams will do it. It's like, it's fucking normal, isn't it? You're human. If you're mates on the other team, you're gonna take a little joke.
Yeah,
but
of course.
NA teams, I feel like they're happy to be the best in their region, if that makes sense. Like, where EU teams want to be the best in the world, and like, I think it's the same with CS, where overall the practice is honestly better in
They're always, and in every game complains about the practice, even though the joke is, look around at the guy next to them, right? It's you're the ones practicing, you idiots. Oh, they all do that, by the way. In every game they do this. The top team in NA always goes, bloody can't get any practice, they're all shit, aren't they? And then you ask the teams that practice them, and they're like, well, since they're the best, they don't even properly practice. They're just like fucking piecing around, not even, or just telling you, like, if you win, like, well, we beat you in the LAN anyway. It's like, you're making this bad culture, guys. This culture doesn't artificially spawn in organically spawn in every game. It happens to NA teams every time, it feels like.
The little story is like, in EU, you have prac groups. You have like I think it's prac.com it's called right now. Like, where you literally schedule prac, you say, what teams you practice. The way it works in NA, you go to Discord with all your mates, with all the Discord managers and all the team managers, and they message each other like, oh, let's scrim today, this day. They won't even say what map, they'll just say, let's scrim. And
so it's not even scheduled, it's just like you decide on the fly.
It'll just be like, let's play 16 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, we're open. And like, they won't say a map. Obviously, this might not be true, but this is what I got told. And one of the players went over and said, like, let's get a schedule. Let's get like a format in where everyone, like, you know, let's get a bit of routine into it. And basically, they all just want to be mates. They all want to have that thing where if they get kicked from their org, they can go message someone and be like, oh yeah, you know, like, it's all about connections. It's like, they're thinking about 6 months ahead. They're thinking, okay, if we do shit in this event and do whatever, it's like, it's just negative thinking overall in NA. Obviously, I haven't experienced the first hand, so I can't really comment on it too much. And take everything I say with a grain of salt as well.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm hearing it a lot. Like, I'm hearing that, like, from multiple people, multiple players. Like, it's NA just overall, just, I don't know. It doesn't seem as focused, if that makes sense. And we have the same problem now where let's say you're a good team, let's say you're like Cloud9 and NA, and you're playing against other good teams, you can't practice them. Like, you can't practice optic, you can't practice guards. Obviously, maybe like the odd of a game here and there, because we have the same problem. Like, we have Gambit in our group. We used to always scrim Gambit.
Right.
So then we have like tier 2 and tier 3 to fall back on. I feel like in NA,
the gap's just way bigger.
Yeah, the gap's just like,
right.
What's the tier 2 teams there? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like all the tier 1 teams are in what's it called? VLR. I don't know what the quote name of it is. But and then everyone else is just like, go fight for yourselves. Like, to me, it's crazy that NA doesn't even have like a tier 2 scene. Like, they don't even have a tier. Like,
I could do a whole podcast just on this. This is like
the same in every game,
passion.
as far as I can tell. By the way, in every game, this is also, by the way, why that reputation exists. That they all want to be the celebrity and the star. Because if they can't be in the top team, it feels like they just go fuck it, and then just, there's, like you say, you go like you can have like maybe 5 to 8 good teams, and after that, it's just you may as well be an amateur at that point. It's mental, isn't it?
That's
I've done two videos in the past specifically talking about this, about how North America and so I did one back when I was in Rainbow Six. I've done another one since I've been in Valorant, but the conversation applies to it could apply to League of Legends as well. It could apply to anything. Is there needs to be like an actual tier 2 league to develop North American talent. It's like one of the biggest complaints that people have about the LCS is that there's too many imports. Well, the reason that there's a lot of imports is because there's the opportunity to develop NA talent is not the same as it is in Europe, where you have the ERLs, you've got EU Masters, you have like a really, really structured format, which just doesn't exist in North America. And I've always found it very strange how so many games, so many esports will have regional leagues in Europe based on country, but the US and Canada combined, which is like nearly 400 million people.
Enormous, yeah.
Think of like the NFL, the NHL, they manage to have regional like things because they've got divisions and conferences, right? So it's like you could literally do like West Coast, metropolitan, West Coast, middle, metropolitan east, and then like coastal east.
Sure.
And do it like that. Because you would have to have Canadian players in the same group as American players, because as soon as you have a separate Canadian league, you have the issue of like there's not enough people to really have a particularly competitive like environment. So you need to have it so Canadians are playing against Americans, but there are so many fucking people, and I think a lot of people think that the best way to do it is emulate like the NCAA and have it collegiate, but there's a lot of problems with that in my opinion that make collegiate actually not super viable, like especially just when you consider like the number of people who are going to be trying to do it, the fact that the main league is not directly fed from the collegiate league, which means that a lot
there's
of
no draft like the NBA or whatever.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
It's like a lot of tier 2 players are going to go a different route that is collegiate, and therefore collegiate does not have a lot of value on its own right, because it only has value if everyone's going that route, right? Like it is in traditional sports in America. So it's like I'm just like, this is just something I'm so passionate about, because to me I feel like it's such a glaring gap in so many esports, and is like a very obvious problem that like people give like NA shit in all of these esports about not being as good a region, and it's like because there's not people are being developed, people are being bought from elsewhere, but the actual talent in North America are not being developed below the top tier, and that goes for so many different esports, and it is such a shame. And I will defend this until the day I die.
But as a player, like imagine you're a player in NA or Canada or wherever where you're from, and let's say you got close, let's say you won a game away from qualifying for the big league. You're fucked. Like, what? Well, now you've got to wait 6 months to play, like to possibly qualify for the next big event, and like. It makes no for me. What I love about Europe,
sad.
Yeah, that's as a player, bro. Your career's just going in front of you. Imagine you're the fucking Kenny S of Valorant. You're playing good. You didn't get the chance. All of a sudden, you've got to wait 6 months to prove yourself. And again, imagine you have a little off day or an off tournament. I'd say you're waiting another 6 months to 12 months, and it's just I don't know. To me, it makes no sense to not have a tier 2 league. Like. I don't see the negative of it. That's the best way to put it. Because in the EU, everyone obviously the viewership depends on the league. Each region's got a league. Everyone's happy with that league because they realize they couldn't go to the big league, which is I forgot the name of it, but they couldn't qualify for the big league, so they can prove themselves in the lesser leagues. But there's plenty of players right now who are putting numbers up, like in the smaller leagues, who are now getting trials to big teams, like who are getting good trials, that being able to prove themselves. How can you prove yourself in an A? Like genuinely, well, you can play a little £5,000 cash cup where everyone just runs around because no one gives a shit about it. Like, I don't know. To me, it makes zero sense, and I don't know if that's on Riot's part or just overall.
I mean, I'd say some of it even goes like even in other games. Like once upon a time, it was like that in CS:GO. People don't know. I mean, it got a lot better. In fact, this is what people don't get. As much as it's all fun, you know, like there's banter to meme on NA, like all this shit, Europe's better or whatever. Like I always told people, even back in the day in CS:GO, like you do know, like the actual talent in NA. There's some really good players. They just don't put the right teams together or practice right, or they have silly ideas about how good they are and what to be in a pro means. And what you saw was when teams actually got their shit together, like the Team Liquids of the world, they became mega. They were actually the number one team in the whole world of Counter-Strike for real. So I think, to me, NA is still a region where, despite the fact it's essentially in the West, like the leading region of esports, because all the bloody money is, it's actually a mad underdeveloped region. Like there's so much more talent, so many better things that could come out of there.
I think it's also the people in America, though, they get paid so much where they... That's
an issue, I think, yeah.
Like, you gotta realise, like, people in Europe, they'll be on like a $3,000 a month salary, and for them to win Masters. I remember Gambit. Gambit were one of the most underpaid tier 1 teams. Like they were the best. They were the best team in Europe for a while, for like 6 to 9 months. I think they were like $2,000-3,000 a month each. And then when you compare, like I've heard some salaries are like an NA, they've got people in NA on 10 times as much as that.
There was people who didn't even get that good at Valorant, but came from CS:GO because they got the big offers. Who, were on like 12k a month, and they were way worse.
12k is the low end. 12k is the low. The numbers are here. The people are on 25 plus, and like they're not good players. Is the best way to put it.
The thing, and obviously, like, I'm not involved in any of that, but like, if you're paying players that much, presumably, like, part of the strategy there is to develop franchise players who are good brand representatives for you. So I would assume that the expectation then is that like they are required to do a certain amount of like streaming or whatever, because they're not just there to be a player. And I understand that, like, you know, as an athlete in anything, like the kinds of the upper ends of salaries get really, really big to a point where like the normal person can't really fathom. So like the average person hearing about someone earning like 25 grand upwards a month, like that doesn't sound real. Whereas like in the world of being a pro athlete, and we're considering esports players in that, like that might just be like, oh, you know, that's not what I'm on, but it doesn't sound crazy to me because I know people who are on that, right? So it's like, it's a different sort of thing, but I still suspect that, yeah, like a lot of that is like you have big brands in the US, you know, especially these esports orgs and
it's
stuff.
Big brands, but also right now in Valorant, players have the leverage. Players have the leverage over all the orgs, because think about how many top orgs there are in NA, in Europe, and all like everyone wants the best team going into franchise. But right now, there's a thing, in my opinion anyway, where there's so many good orgs wanting good players, but there's not enough players. Like, you got to realize Valorant's a new game. It's not like there's 20 Dakers out there.
Yeah, there's limited options to make money for the organizations.
So right now, like there's players who I don't know if they know they're lucky or they don't know they're lucky, but like there's a lot of people getting paid a lot more than they deserve, and it's simply because there isn't anyone else to get. And it's like literally that it comes to like.
It's why to this day, mate, even to this day, I still hear top CS:GO pros or coaches of CS:GO who are like, I get contract offers, but I've never even played Valorant. Like they say, like I'm not even saying it like, because you know some of them lied, like fucking people from like Ethan pretended they weren't playing Valorant. They definitely fucking were. You could see from game one, but anyway, they all claim, you know, what did you join the game? There's people who really have never played the game, but like as you're saying, like the premise goes where if I've tried like the people who are in Valorant and they're not good enough, you know, I'll take a gamble on a guy was a star in CS:GO. Maybe it's worth it. Like I'm going to be paying a fucking king's ransom anyway, apparently. So I get it.
I mean, that's why there's so many CS:GO players. I remember Dennis, bro. You know when Valorant first came out, he was asking for like 10k, bro, and it was like,
oh, I know.
I was like,
I know.
The thing is, he didn't even touch the game. I mean, to be fair, like looking back,
I think
the game
totally new to it.
Yeah, I think looking now, like the game was new, so I think then you could do it. Like it could work out. Maybe you get like Olaf Meister back then, or Kiyoshima was looking back then. We were maybe going to sign him in G2. Like that would make sense because the player still has time to develop.
Yeah.
Now, like if orgs are looking at CS:GO players, they will lost.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to pay money. Like they just you know what I mean. They're looking at what's the best way we can waste money.
Yes.
Like, I think Kenny S is getting rumored to like come over. Obviously, it might be bullshit, but
the problem with that was, because I'm actually mate to him, as far as I know, it's like this. He did consider it, but he also secretly wanted to still be in CSGO. But now his most recent thing he said publicly in interviews, he said he doesn't want to do anything and be a pro at the moment. He's gonna basically sort of like just chill, I think, for a while, because he's been burned out from playing.
The pro life, like you don't realize, like Kenny S has done everything. Like he's best player in the world, won everything. Yeah. Like the guy. I can see him just literally feet up, living the good life. I can see that.
He wants a mini retirement, sort of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, the thing is this as well. That's actually the reason why I also think these NA orgs that are trying the big gambles, like you say at this point, it makes sense when it's in 2020 and you do this. The other reason it doesn't make any sense is because I've actually just sort of alluded to the real secret as to whether you'll make it in Valorant there. You have to have been low-key secretly playing the game the whole fucking time. Yeah. So guess what? In 2020, mate, when we all went online and we had no LANs, even though they won't admit it to you, loads of those NACS CSGO pros were fucking moonlighting in Valorant, playing all the scrims, the pogs, like they were at least in the fucking ranked and streaming it like a motherfucker. So I think a lot of them already had a basis. I agree with you. If you're a player who was really good in CSGO now, but you never played a lick of Valorant, like you're probably going to fuck your own career if you come over, mate. I don't care how much money they pay you.
Look at him. I mean, there's a good example of this in Heretics. They've signed Tensky, they signed Mates, they signed MBK, or they were trialing MBK, sorry. There's free CS play. Like, the way the org looked at it was the way the org looked at it like a year and a half ago. Whereas like we just get the CS players over, Nuki, get all the players over. There's another guy as well, I forgot his name, the one who played for Rubinho. Get Rubinho over, get all the CS players over. Just get them. They'll adapt. They're good enough. They'll adapt. Just give them time. They were top 300 in the world. You just had top 300 team in the world. That's how far. Like, and I know obviously I don't know the actual numbers, but I know they were getting paid well. But
no doubt.
That CS players coming over, no experience, thinking, oh yeah, I'll learn the game and I'll just go kill everyone. Top 300 in the world. That's all I'm gonna say. Top 300 in the fucking world. And like right now, I think it's over. I don't think CS play like the CS players at the window. It was like a year ago where if you came, you still had time where you could maybe adapt. Like I think the last player is probably Yugi. Like Yugi's like really upcoming right now. Where at the start, I remember he tried for Liquid and he was really bad. Like he just went good enough. Now Yugi's done the thing where I expect CS players who want to move over now to do. Go to the tier 3 scene, prove yourself. Go to the tier 2 scene, prove yourself.
Yeah.
Now Yugi, I can see Yugi easily getting joined in a tier 1 team in Valorant. Like the guy's grinded as well. Like
is he an opera? Is he an opera in Valorant?
He's a jet player and operator. Like he understands the game now. At the start, he didn't understand the game. Like he was playing like the AWP, like it was in CS:GO. And now the guy understands the game. The guy's grinded enough. I can easily see him on a tier 1 team. And like that's what if any CS player wants to move over, you have to do that.
And by the way, if you're a CS player and you want proof of this, just go watch Simple stream. In CSGO, he is fucking God walking on Earth. When you watch him play Valorant, he's just okay, even in the games he's in. Like, it doesn't matter how good your aim is, if you don't understand the game, you're not going to win.
Problem with Valorant as well that it has is the skill level is fucking small. It's not like in CSGO, because obviously you played it, if you're good enough, you could go in a pub and just drop 40 easily. In Valorant, it's not like that. In Valorant, I remember I smurfed my friends. I was getting one-tapped. Johnny No Fingers over there. He's swinging at me cross map.
And he doesn't even know he's just wrecking a pro. Like,
I was like, what's going on here? Like, this can't be normal. Like, the skill gap in Valorant is more in knowing the game and understanding what to do. Like the aim-wise, I don't think this game unless they do a big update about the game, I don't think there will be like a simple of the game. I really don't. I think the skill gap is just too small aim-wise. Obviously, there's certain players that are obviously there'll be a better player in the best region. Leaf and A's are really good individually. But I just don't see there being a simple way. You just think this guy hands down is the best player in the world, and it's sad. But as a player, you're just gonna adapt and just understand it.
This is something that we spoke. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. We did speak about it on one of the episodes where it was like, you can be a really mechanically insane jet player, let's say, but if you don't have the correct support from the rest of the team and them doing their jobs well, then you're not going to do your job well, right?
I mean, I think
Asuna is a really good example.
Yeah, Tens and Asuna, yeah. For me, Tens is no one would argue that the guy's a bad player. Like individually, when you look at him individually, the guy's unbelievable. But when like recently, obviously when they were good, it was the skill region. Like the guy was just better than the other people. It was literally just raw aim and raw ability was better. Now it's more like I watch Sentinels play. I feel like Tens has fucking zero support of his team. It's more like Tens go kill. Just like they genuinely just think Tens go kill. Like if you don't play well, oh, who cares? Like
he gets caught in so many like early deaths, like not necessarily always the opening death, but like he gets picked off early at times where it's like you haven't even had a chance to engage the site yet. It's
because I've had it as well, where like in your mind process as Jet is I've got to get the entry, I've got to go there and kill them. But sometimes it doesn't happen for you. Sometimes you got to understand like the kills don't come, that you don't have the space, and that's where your team just goes, okay, well, your team just plays for yourself. You know, like when I watch Sentinels, it's all just Tens, like literally just Tens go kill. Like it will smoke for you. But like when you watch Dake is a perfect example of this. I watch so much of his stuff. The team of Aram Fnatic plays for Dake. They'll use every fucking ability under the sun to make sure that he gets the kill. They'll use a Skydog. He'll follow the team will play around him. They'll accommodate him. They'll give him anything he needs. They'll give him support. They'll give him smokes. They'll be like, Dake, do you need this? Dake, do you need that? Like, they'll make sure he's happy. But with Tens, it's more like, go kill, bro. Go, this is you, bro. This is your moment. Go kill everyone. And high-level VALORANT, that doesn't work. That just, like, doesn't work at all. That's why I think he's struggling right now. And same with Asuna. Like, I remember hearing comms, like, not comms, I remember hearing rumours that when they went to the event, it was Asuna, literally go kill. Like, that was genuinely their fortress. Like, I remember saying... I remember they said, "Oh, Sealed's on A, let's go B." Like that was their fucking, that was their process of like I know we meme about it. Like, I know there was memes on Twitter. Where
was this when Steel was IGL?
I think it might have been, or it might have been before that. It was like, and like I thought it was a meme, but it was like Sealed's A, go B. But like genuinely, bro, that's the way they called it. And like, I don't like, you can't. I don't know. It's weird. It's. For me, you have to play around your star player, and right now I feel some players just don't get the support they need. The team expects them to just fucking kill everyone, and it's just not the way Valorant works.
Is Durka the best player in this tournament? Sounds like you're pretty high on him.
Dirk is an unbelievable duelist.
Where'd you put him next to Ye?
I'd put him above Ye, but my top 3 in the world is Leaf, Chronicle, and well, who's the other one? CNED. Like no order. They just and you got to realize all 3 of them are at the event, and like that just shows how random like Valorant is. And, like going into this event, I'll probably say Dirk is probably the best player at the event. Maybe Nuki as well. Nuki, I'll probably throw it up between Nuki and Dirk, individually wise.
If we could like pause time now and rerun the whole fucking European qualifier, would teams like Gambit, fucking Ascend, would they be good now? Was it just like, did they hit the wrong period of time? What happened to these squads, you know?
Maybe Gambit 100%. And I think if we run this event 10 times, I think Gambit qualified 9. Like, nice. I think, I genuinely, in my pace, I rate them so highly. I think Gambit literally just is a fluke. This is a fluke. Like, I don't rate it. Teams like Ascend, I think they had their problems themselves. So it's like they could have won, they could have not have won. It's like, for me, that they're up in the air. Like, that's the problem with EU right now. I think every team was like 50-50. Like, who could have won? Like, we could have qualified, we could have not. Like, right now, it's like there's no clear pecking order, if that makes sense. Like, before, you always knew it was Gambit, Ascend, Liquid G2, Fnatic maybe in there. Like, everyone knew like the order, like the rankings. Right now, it's a bit like who turns up on the day. Like, I see a world where Liquid now just go on a life run. Like, in the event, they just think, you know what, fuck it. Like, we're not even meant to be here. Let's just show our best. Like,
I might remove the pressure from them. Yeah.
They know like they shouldn't be here. So like, fuck it.
Well, I don't know, because they've now been told that they will take whatever global standings points they earn here, right?
Oh,
so
right.
like
That's
it
how it
might
works,
actually mean more to them to not do that, because this could be a really big thing for them to qualify for champions.
Like, as long as they don't do the cuckoo shit they were doing in the playoffs and the group stage where they're running double smoker, they're thinking, let's change the meta. Like, if they just stick to what they know, put Scream on Jet, put Navira on Chamber, or like if they just stick to normal routines where they just think keep it simple, they could easily just go like finish top 4 or top 2, or like they could have a life run and do it. But it's just like that's the problem with EU right now, where everyone's like so similar level. It's a coin toss. It literally is like who turns up on the day, apart from like Gambit. I don't know. I have a hard on for Gambit, just so you know.
Right.
But
I think a lot of people do.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds
when
like the way you're describing it makes sense. Like if no one follows CS:GO, like you can actually always tell who is a fucking casual pleb because they're the ones who only like the teams that shoot everyone in the head. Like everyone who's an actual analyst or coach or in-game leader, the teams we all wank off over our fucking Gambit and Astralis, like the teams that are just all pack tactics, structure, interesting little details of what you do with one player. They're making it's the shit, isn't it? If people don't know, that is what TAC FPS is. That's what you're supposed to be into.
That's literally when you watch them. You always learn something, and that's like that's how I like. Not how I rate a team, but like when you see a team, when you see the same team on the same map, and you're learning something new from like 5 different games, you're thinking like these guys actually like these on the server, these are learning stuff, these are doing new stuff. When you watch it, like these are the teams I watch, and I'm just thinking these guys are just running around, like they just literally like they're just better individually, they're just killing them, and like I see everyone on Twitter, this is the best team ever, like this is. Yeah. I'm thinking, are you watching the same game? Like, I don't know. It's
like, I think with Gambit, like, you know, the fact that they are not the world champions, but people talk about them like they are, or they talk about them like they are the best team in the world, says everything that you
unofficial number one team, right? Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that they didn't win the grand finals of champions in and of itself is like, I think came to a shock to a lot of people. Not that Ascend Ascend up until that game were lossless. You know, they had won every map that they played and were playing really, really well. But just considering like the performance over the course of the year, especially as the year went on, it was just like, there isn't a team that we can say are doing what Gambit are doing. And so, yeah, people still talk about them like they're the best team in the world, even though they haven't got a world championship. They're not going to be at this next event. Like, it's wild, but it's just, I think that's just a testament to, like, who they are as a team and, like, how they are.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Travis Goff, Adam Ochs, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Hades, Jensen Goh, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Thooorin, William Peyton Lacy, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and as always, special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Want to ask me a question in my monthly AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming guests are? Maybe you want to take part in a lengthy donator discussion with me? Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scruilluminati today, where? Via the Patreon link in the description box.